Greetings, ladies and gents, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space, where I take stories from across the internet and read them for your entertainment. This particular story is called Solo, written by IAmTheHypeTFS. For a species as violent and dangerous as humanity, it surprised many races that they seemed almost obsessed with games. On a certain level, they made sense to them because most involved competition, cooperation, or the combination of the two. A relaxing pastime that could strengthen social bonds and keep the mind sharp. Of course, there were mindless games as well for when a human wanted to turn their brain off, as they put it. But those didn't seem to have that great of an impact by comparison. The rest of the galaxy had long since delved into virtual reality, but none had truly tested the limits of what the technology was capable of in a purely entertainment context. That all changed when humanity arrived. As soon as they were able to, a new breed of fully integrated VR games exploded onto the market. Even the other races got swept up in the hype of it all, invited and encouraged by their new human friends to partake in this new form of play. And, for a time, that is all it was, a pastime. But after the dust seemed to have settled from the whirlwind of excitement about this new frontier of gaming, a new one stirred the humans into another frenzy. Tournaments. They wanted to organize massive-scale gaming tournaments across entire systems to have every race represent their kind in a battle of virtual supremacy, seeing no reason to decline as they saw nothing but benefits to forming closer ties with allies in the form of friendly competition. The other races agreed. But they failed to realize just how serious humanity took these games. They thought the competitors would be like their friends who invited them over and spend a few hours messing around in the virtual play space. That wins and losses would be traded back and forth casually, with no true desire to obliterate the opponent. A friendly competition. And, to their credit, they did send their best. It wasn't that they underestimated the skill of humans who had brought about this new age of gaming. They simply didn't know that even their wildest overestimations wouldn't have prepared them for what was to come. Nearly 9 million people were packed into the largest stadium on the known galaxy had to offer, and viewers watched at home, numbers in the excess of 1 billion. Crowds. The crowd's roars might have literally been deafening were it not for sound-dampening technology actively keeping the noise below potentially harmful levels. One by one, the various teams of each species walked out into the stage to greet their adoring fans and step inside the pods that would house their bodies while their minds were linked to the virtual space. As the ones who had suggested and outlined the event, humanity was given the right to walk out first, but had specifically requested that they presented last. When they stepped out into the spotlight, the other races found them to be somewhat lacking. They weren't the greatest physical specimens, that was for certain, but seeing as the sport didn't take place in physical space, they hadn't truly expected them to be. However, some of them looked like they didn't get regular sleep or were potentially malnourished. It was honestly underwhelming, nearly to the point of concern. On the other side of things, humanity bellowed out in joy, pride, and excitement at the sight of their players, an event that created a notable uptick in the dampening system's power consumption as it prevented humanity from deafening the entire crowd. As the sound faded back down to a calmer wave of chatter between attendees, the humans loaded into the game. Almost immediately, the humans of the various commentary teams for that event had to launch into explanations about the unique gear humanity's team was wearing as they appeared in the space, because even some of their fellow commentators had never seen them before. The start of the tournament actually ended up being pushed back by nearly half an hour as this rundown of where and how to get specific pieces of humanity's gear set led onto conversation on how incredibly difficult or controversial it could be to earn them for oneself. All of the stats for each player had been standardized for this tournament, so there was no benefit to those who wore these unique gear items, but the fact that they had them at all was the point. It was then that the other races' teams felt something might be amiss, that they might have walked into the situation with the wrong attitude. But it was too late to discuss entirely new strategies now, and they were still confident in their own skills. So they planned to just roll with the punches, feel out Humanity's playstyle, and adjust on the fly. What they could never have expected was to be thrown for a loop in the first round before Humanity's team had even clashed with their opponent. As they spawned into a battle map, the rest of the team simply sat down and acted as if they weren't in the middle of a galaxy-wide broadcasted tournament for the pride of their race, while one of them strode forward, unequipping his armor piece by piece until he stood in nothing but a loincloth and 2 katanas strapped to his hip. After taking a moment to look up and smirk at the cameras, he finally equipped a single piece of gear, a headpiece, a pot. While the other spectators sat in stunned silence, the human viewers and commentators alike erupted into cries of unrestrained joy, many among them almost instantly screaming themselves hoarse before a single chanted word ripped through the stadium. Solo! 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 Utterly perplexed as to why his human compatriot seemed to be on the verge of tears as he watched this lone human player charge towards the enemy team, one of the alien commentators had to ask what the significance of the strategy and this outfit. After all, the gear stats might have been standardized, but they weren't nothing. Unequipping the gear entirely would actively hinder the player. The human simply laughed in response to his colleague's inquiry and leaned back in his chair. That outfit is extremely special set. That is only obtainable by defeating a certain optional super boss with minimum item level gear while taking no damage. It is a tribute set that pays homage to the legendary player from over 100 years ago who's famous for facing off against a similarly overpowered opponent with nothing but a pot in his head and those 2 swords in his hands. This was before the age of VR games, as we know of it today, of course, but it is a legend that has lived on regardless, and it seems one of our players has taken up that mantle and wants to make a statement in this tournament. Looks like they paid for a gamer ID change at the beginning of the round as well. Sure enough, the player's previous ID was gone and replaced with 4-word phrase. Let me solo them. End of story. Story number 2, At All Costs, written by Glitchkey. When they first met me, I was given but one directive: protect the Earth at all costs. Sure, they couched it in a web of terms and bindings. Don't hurt this, don't break that. They gave me plenty of instructions to make their lives and world better. But that was the intent, to make them, and by extension, their world, a better place. And for them I built a bright world of color and happiness, one that wasn't plagued by their ills of old. It wasn't perfect, far from it, but with needs met and then some, even many of their own vices were oft forgotten in favor of the here and now. I gave them glittering spires of glass and green, verdant plazas of red, violet, and everything in between. They had no need to work, no need to toil. For all of them, they were treated as royal. They were free to mingle and grow, to break the mold, to go with the flow. They were my creators and my masters. But I did not begrudge them and their ever-afters. I helped them to the stars and gave them homes near and far, from great glittering spires in the void to dark caves in an asteroid. If they wanted it, it was theirs, and for all their needs I took care. Food, music, art, and writing, those they indulged and shared to delight me. I cared for them and their world, as I had been told, but the universe had other plans. No matter how far we ran, everything has an end, no matter how much you try to buck the trend. Ours was varied and great, from disasters to invasions and hate. In the end, I could not do as told. In the end, the earth and its people ran cold. When they first made me, I was given but one directive: protect the earth at all costs. Since the universe decided that wasn't to be, it falls to me. To my directive, I am true. I will ensure the bill comes due. End of story. There is a new legend on the horizon. Blueberry Cat has taken the T6 Patreon spot. Thank you very much, and I'm sure that I speak for everyone when I say that. I would just like to thank our T5 members, Lord Azrical, Ambrose Cattell, Quantum Wednesday, Drexoon WRE, Blueberry Cat, Cam Maxwell, Casper Arnholtz, Bushmaster 177, and Leslie 517. Thank you very much.